Welcome to the Temple of Flame. On today, Faith Black Lights, we take a look at this. And what this is from Kinder's, it is the creamy Louisiana hot sauce. And they, I've seen them, I think they're probably national at this point. I've seen them roll out a lot of sauces, barbecues, and some rubs and stuff. Nice, clean, slick label here. And so they've pushing out some new products. This is one of them. I think they made a wing sauces as well, which is what I thought this was going to be more like. We'll get into that, but it is very clearly says hot sauce. Something odd. We see liquids in volume measurements. This one is in weight, and I find this odd because at first I thought I was like, okay, they probably just meant fluid ounces, but here we can see grams rather than milliliters. So they meant this by weight, which is strange for a liquid. So we got some of the use cases here. This is fine. Their take on the vinegar-based sauce, and they decide to move right away from that almost immediately. The sauce is thick and creamy, which is not reflective of Louisiana style, and not most Cajuns either. This would be more of a Cajun style, I would say, to a degree. And of course they're saying, put it on everything. To which I would say, there's very few sauces I would intentionally put on everything. This is certainly not one of them. This is really interesting here. So calories per teaspoon is 5. And we have a gram of carbohydrates, which is, most of the time, it's 0 for a lot of the hot sauces. Peppers don't carry much of a caloric load to them. Vinegar certainly doesn't carry any. Neither does salt and most of the other ingredients. So that's really interesting that they're saying one of these is 5 calories. Especially because it's all coming from carbohydrates and not, as you might expect, from the oil, the soybean oil. So now's a good time to take a look at the ingredients. Let's do that. We have a cayenne, what they're saying is a cayenne puree. And it's aged peppers. What the hell? This is so weird. So puree is there, and then we have a parentheses, but inside the parentheses, we have brackets. And apparently it's just peppers and salt, and then vinegar rounds out the mash, which is, I mean, fine. Right there is essentially your sauce. You don't need all this other stuff in it. But they add more vinegar, and then soybean oil. So we'll come to that. We've got sugar, salt, dehydrated garlic, which is garlic powder. Cayenne, again, I'm assuming this is cayenne powder, and I'm pretty well convinced that's what it is. We have cultured dextrose, which is another sugar. We have xanthan gum, and then here's where it gets really weird. We have vitamin E, and we have green tea extract. The last two would be more antioxidants, but I'm really confused as to why they are here. It seems like just a really wacky thing to throw in your hot sauce. You can see it's definitely much, this is more of a, I suppose like almost maybe like a Heinz 57, a thinner sort of steak sauce. You can see it flows very slowly. glistens. We have a lot of the xanthan gum shake. Actually, watch it jiggle. It looks fine, but right now I can tell you just from pouring it in the spoon, this smell is so odd. And I just don't know what to make of this. Like, I really struggled with this sauce quite a lot, truth be told. But visually it's fine. Comes in this attractive sort of plastic honey bottle container here. Which is, I mean, I assume they're making it like with to go with their other stuff, you know, like outdoor barbecues and stuff like that. You can just take it. You don't have to worry about glass breaking and so on and so forth. I feel like the plastic is a tad thick for this, but like I get the idea. But there you can see it. I mean, it looks okay-ish here. It's sort of a reddish brown, I guess I would call it. But let's get into the hard part now and start the tasting. Oh, Jesus. Oof. There is just some off flavors in this. And I can't say it's the plastic. I can't say it's the green tea extract. I can't say it's the vitamin E. Although those last two I've never had in a sauce like this before. It could be the soybean oil, which I don't usually have in sauces either. Something is just making this very fun. There's just a very odd off note to this. And there's a bit of sweetness to it, but it's also quite astringent, even like that. And it throws me every time. It's just jarring every time I have this. And I thought it's going to be much more like a straightforward, something like, for instance, like a wing sauce. Like I say, I've done several wing sauces in this series where that's essentially what it is. Cayenne, and then they throw in some oils to make it smoother and creamier. But it doesn't really shift the flavor hugely. This one does shift the flavor quite dramatically, and it's just like I can't get past that off note. Louisiana style is one of my favorite styles. I've said it a lot on both the blog and in this video series. It is probably the sauce style I have the most, and even like not super great ones, I usually will plow through them. This one, I just am having a hell of a time trying to figure out where to use it. Because if I use it on like a cream dish, for instance, it fouls the dish. And I have it, and I'm like, something is very wrong here. There's like an artificiality to this, I would say. And to me, I thought maybe they just went too heavy with like the cayenne pepper powder. But cayenne pepper powder is relatively innocuous. So, well, that leaves only a few things. It leaves stuff that we don't typically see, or I don't anyway, like a cultured dextrose, like a vitamin E, a green tea extract, like a soybean oil. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with the flavor of some of those things on their own to be able to isolate exactly what it is. But there is something that is just fundamentally running afoul with my taste buds in this sauce. And I've gone through maybe a sixth of it trying to play around with it. When I first had it, I was like, oh. You saw it earlier when I had the spoonful by itself. It is better chilled, which is a problem when you throw it on like a mac and cheese, which I will not be doing in this video. But when you throw it on there and it starts to warm up, you start to get those off notes. And it's just like, man, even if it's cheap frozen mac and cheese, actually, especially if it's that, you know, I need to lean on the sauce a little bit, and I don't find I can do that with this one. So the one place I did find it to be acceptable is on, this is the bottom of the bag of some chicken tendies that I had. Just these little pieces that were straggling. And I thought, you know, on this, on the chicken is about the only place I've found this enjoyable. So, why don't I mop up that bag? And that way I won't have to eat a whole lot of this sauce, happily. But we'll still try it on some food. Because this is, you know, this is something I do for... It's pretty rare that a sauce is so foul to me that I will do a written review, but then specifically exclude a video review. This isn't on that level. Like, it is not to me a good sauce, to be sure. It's not that, but it isn't like hideous to the point where I'm got my arms over my head and I'm fleeing down the street screaming rather than contemplate eating it again. Other sauces have been like that, not this one. All right, so maybe it's those things in conjunction with the vinegar. I've agitated this a lot as well. I try to make sure I've had enough room to agitate it. Oh, man. That is rough. I get it. You want to differentiate yourself. I get it. We want our shit to not be like everything else out there. Fine. I get it. I don't think what you came up with here is differentiating itself in the way that you were hoping, though. This is something I'm not going to finish out. I'm giving this away. At the conclusion of this video, I'm not eating any more of this. Honestly, that was... I just kept going with this, literally because I wanted to try to give it a fair shake. For the review and for the series, the FOH series. This has been open for quite a while in my fridge. And I didn't expect it to be great. I don't really expect that from most mass market sauces. What I thought it was going to be was a lot more run-of-the-mill, you know, sort of middle-of-the-road standard sauce. Oh, God. To their credit, for whatever that's worth here, it is not that. It is certainly not run-of-the-mill and any of that stuff. It is very distinctly its own thing. But that thing is not a thing I like. And so even with sort of lowered expectations, and maybe to a degree sort of, I guess, hopes it would be along those lines, because like I don't necessarily mind trying to make sauces like this a little bit on the creamier side. But all those off flavors are just so very off-putting. And I can't get past that. It is... It just distracts me, and it honestly kind of ruins for me whatever I'm putting it on. And I just don't need sauces like that. I just don't understand why they took that approach. I mean, I guess a bottle like this would last you the entire summer if you're only using maybe a drop or two at a time. But I would much rather have a sauce that I'm excited about eating, and this is definitely not one of those. So yeah, this one's going to be going bye-bye after this video, and I hope they come up with something, future sauces, hot sauces, if they choose to make those, definitely fall more in line with that. But this is about as much of a misfire, particularly where it's one of my favorite sauce styles, as I think it's possible for a sauce to be. And we'll just leave it right there. So that was the Kinder Creamy Louisiana Hot Sauce. Now go forward in peace to serve the flame.